I mean, I'm going to question what you said. We need the meat. Tyson and other companies, Tyson was making profits hand over fist
Mhm.
in the pandemic. They were accused of price fixing. So they had this argument, we need meat. They were exporting to China. So they were saying, oh, everyone's going to starve. This was not a meat issue. This was not a starvation issue. This was not a we're helping customers issue. This was a profit issue. And so what was the bargain? The bargain was we will keep workers in an environment where they will, because they're working elbow to elbow in these conditions, and there's very little way to protect them from COVID spreading. People died. My book is dedicated to people who died in Arkansas while I was working on this project. And the reason, and they're all immigrants.
Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to Meet the Author. Joining us today is award-winning author Alice Driver to speak with us about her book, Life and Death of the American Worker, The Immigrants Taking on America's Largest Meatpacking Company. Driver has won multiple awards for her writing, including the James Beard Award, the J. Anthony Lukas Work-in-Progress Award, a New Yorker Best Book of 2024 award, and announced today a finalist for the Brooklyn Library Prize for Nonfiction. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, very good. Okay, why don't we begin? I'll just ask you to, with the very first question that I have in mind is, how did you come up with this topic to write this book?
Well, I am from the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas, from a town called Oark. It has less than 200 people. And the Ozarks are the home of the largest meat packing company in the United States, the second largest in the world, which is Tyson Foods. And I had been working for a long time as a freelance journalist, really at the intersection of food systems and immigration, because I'm fluent in Spanish. And in the pandemic, like many, many people, I ended up back at home in Arkansas. And I had been thinking, why do I never, ever hear anything, not even a word nothing from meatpacking workers? And so it really started as simple as that. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to meatpacking workers, many of whom speak only Spanish, and I'm going to use my language skills to understand what their lives are like.
All right, okay. All right, because this book is about the workers and Tyson, would you describe what the work situation is for the employees at Tyson?
Well, I'll tell you, I spent 4 years interviewing workers in Arkansas at different plants. And here's what they told me. It's a series of things. It's a very dangerous job. I mean, the average of amputations per day in the job of meat packing is 27 amputations per day. So you're dealing with your people who have, they're losing fingers, losing limbs, frostbite, extreme conditions. The kill side of any plant is extremely hot. The processing side is below freezing because you have to keep everything really cold. And so you've got that to start out with, and then you've got workers. I mean, the largest percentage of workers are immigrants, and they're from Central America, and many of them are illiterate or they don't speak English, and they're dealing with work situations in which they are not. What they say is that they are not. Safety is not a central concern for the company.
I noticed that throughout the book, it's not necessarily specifically, although there are times that Tyson threatened the workers. Sometimes it's blatant, but sometimes it's more implied. Would you talk about that? Like, for instance, like the nurses, how, and the spies that they had. Would you talk about, I mean, to me, that's like working with the KGB or the Gestapo, always looking over your shoulder. Could you talk about that sort of atmosphere, that sort of relationship? Yeah.
Well, and the important thing to note here is that Arkansas is a state with ag-gag laws. I have never set foot on Tyson property. I have
Mhm.
never been inside a facility. Everything that I know is from workers
Okay.
who took incredible risks because there's incredible legal risks for anyone who is doing this. And so they're sharing plans, photos, they're sharing. So all, and you thought they were being followed. It's just a very individuals felt like that Tyson Foods has a chaplaincy program. They have chaplains in most plants who they say are there to support workers for their religious needs. But many workers felt like the chaplains were spying on them, that anything they shared would be immediately shared with management. And on the side of the nurses, Tyson is it's a huge industrial supply chain. They have on-site medical clinics, which is a third thing they do through third party kind of use that as a buff. They say, oh, this isn't us. This is, this third party. But workers would say things like, like the Tyson nurse, like, they would have some very severe injury, and the Tyson nurse, they would say, she just told me to go back to work. And the real breakthrough for me was interviewing a nurse who was on site. Tyson, and I'm in communication all the time with Tyson, with the PR. They're all men. And they said, of course, there is no Tyson nurse, but workers, all they say is the Tyson nurse, the Tyson doctor. So it's interesting to get the official perspective versus the perspective of workers and their own experience. And interviewing the nurse, I mean, I think that's why I won the James Beard Award, frankly, because these are things that they might seem very simple, but they're extremely hard to do, and no one was doing this work,
Mhm.
especially not in Arkansas.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought as I was reading about how difficult it was to get a doctor or the nurses, at least what you wrote in the book, they would just tell them, put ice on it. And it was just like, this is not a solution to the problem. And that if the employees wanted to go see a doctor, they got penalized or they had to go through the doctors that the Tyson approved. It just, the whole medical aspect, it just was shocking to me reading this. And so I don't know if you can add anything more, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in from what I gathered from your book. Yeah.
hmm Well, when I started interviewing workers, I didn't know anything about the on-site medical, nothing. I had no plans. I didn't know it existed. So it was like when workers started saying the Tyson nurse did this, the Tyson nurse said this, and I was like, what is this? So when I finally did interview a Tyson nurse, and she was anonymous because she knew, the price of speaking about Tyson in Arkansas is extremely high. And so she said, look, I'll tell you that, when we're giving a diagnosis for someone who's been hurt, that managers and supervisors at Tyson come into the clinical room and tell us what they think we should do. They are not medically trained in any way, and that the real pressure is to keep injuries down. It's basically, they're called recordable injuries according to OSHA.
Hmm.
So it gets technical, but as long as nurses classify something as a worker only needs rest and ice and aspirin, then it's not a recordable injury. And they said that managers and supervisors, if they keep recordable injuries down, would receive some kind of a bonus. And so there's a real incentive to say, there were no injuries here.
Yeah. You bring up something in your answer about OSHA. And so for the people who are watching this program, um, I have some questions. Why didn't OSHA do anything? And what are some of the OSHA laws that are designed to protect workers, employees?
Well, here's the basic situation with OSHA. I mean, there's a couple issues. One, in my book, I describe that the meatpacking industry in general, not just Tyson, has had a very cozy relationship with politicians, from Bill Clinton to President Trump.
Mhm.
And so what has happened to OSHA? It's one of those situations like starve the beast. OSHA is underfunded and understaffed. It would take, with the current staff, 165 years for them to go and observe every meatpacking facility in the US. So it's not that there aren't rules. It's not that OSHA doesn't exist. It's that it is underfunded and understaffed. And I'm sure that that data was from when I was working on the book. I'm sure it's worse now. Like I
Yes.
have no doubt that there are less people working here because the government has been purging anybody who oversees these kinds of things.
Mhm.
And, the day after President Trump came into office in January, the meat industry wrote him an open letter asking for various things like a rollback of all kinds of food safety issues, water issues, worker safety issues. So there's a very, very clear relationship between the meatpacking industry and it's a bipartisan issue.
Mhm. Well, I got to admit, when I remember during when COVID came out and President Trump announced, like the meatpacking industry would, I don't know if he used the word exempt, but they wouldn't have to follow a lot of these rules. I thought, well, okay, we need the meat, blah, blah, blah. But after reading your book, I realized at what a cost it came. And so I've changed my attitude as to what my interpretation of what that decision meant.
Well, I mean, I'm going to question what you said. We need the meat. I mean, Tyson and other companies, Tyson was making profits hand over fist
Mhm.
in the pandemic. They were accused of price fixing. So they had this argument, we need meat. They were exporting to China. So they were saying, oh, everyone's going to starve. This was not a meat issue. This was not a starvation issue. This was not a we're helping customers issue. This was a profit issue. And so what was the bargain? The bargain was we will keep workers in an environment where they will, because they're working elbow to elbow in these conditions, and there's very little way to protect them from COVID spreading. People died. My book is dedicated to people who died in Arkansas while I was working on this project. And the reason, and they're all immigrants.
Yes. Having said that, because people died, could you discuss the chlorine gas leak? And has anything changed, as far as you know, at the factory? Because that seems to be paramount to the substance of your book, that chlorine gas and what it did to the people.
Well, this is another thing that I didn't know about, and I wasn't planning on writing about it at all because if you go to for if you look at the Arkansas news of this chemical leak, as they called it, it's just it says like there was a chemical leak. Some people went to the hospital. Everyone returned to work the next day. I would have never know, but I interviewed workers, and many of the workers I interviewed, including some who died, had already severely damaged lungs from this 2011 chemical leak. They call it a leak, but what an official report said was that an individual working at Tyson, and this is an issue. You have plants where people can speak up to, 30, 50 different languages. You have people who are not, they're illiterate. They don't read in English, and you have workers say instructions for mixing hazardous chemicals that are only in English. So what happened was that someone mixed chemicals and it caused this it's a chemical gas leak. It's weapons grade. It can kill people. And so, the official story was there was a leak. Everyone's fine. And then I'm interviewing workers, and more workers are telling me, like, I can't breathe, I'm on disability, I have all these medications, I can't afford them, I've got a lawsuit, I'm trying to get, and it was so I was just like, what's the official story and what are the workers telling me and how have their lives been impacted?
Yeah. Well, as you talk about that, it just reminded me again of just the pain. I mean, you do a good job in your writing in describing the physical pain these employees went through that were affected by that chlorine gas. But you do it in such a way so that you still want to read about it. You know how sometimes you can read something, it's so painful you can't read it anymore. You're a good author in that respect so that you can write about something and it's painful to read, but you still want to read more. So, congratulations to you for that. My sympathies. I just would have never known about that had you not written about that. So, congratulations to you. And thank you for that. Yes, because I'm sure, as you say, and I know I'm trying to interview you, and here I am doing all the chatting. Forgive me. But it's just, as you said, so many people did not speak English, and the forums were in English. How did they expect people to be able to do their jobs safely, to understand what to do? And so it's not even, I don't even want to use the word comedy of errors. It's just disgusting errors. My colleague, who's sitting right next to me, he said, Derek, this is a nonfiction version of The Jungle written by Sinclair Lewis. And that's what we're going to call this book as like a subtitle. I hope you're not offended by that. I hope you take it as a compliment because that's what we mean. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in the introduction to my book, I include a quote from the jungle, and it says something like, "Ought not one be able to do their job and live, like basic to survive a job?"
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Um, Talk about because your book concludes or a large subset is about the lawsuit. Talk about the lawsuit because it is a subtitle of your book, The Immigrants Taking on America's Largest Meatpacking Company.
Hmm. So while, I started this project, I wrote one article. It started as me just wanting to understand the lives of workers. I didn't have a book contract. All of this was building. And, it was building because workers began to die, because they were asked to work in labor conditions that were unsafe. Um, and so as workers started dying, their spouses, their family members, their children said, like one worker said to me, and she said this in Spanish, she said, I don't care if they send someone to kill me, I am going to get justice for my husband's death. And so it was just this like I will do and the woman who was really who said that, she's illiterate. She's never been to school. She's from rural Guatemala. And so I wanted to show how a group of people were organizing. I mean, Tyson is a company that made $53 billion last year. So for any worker to organize and to ask for justice, even though they did not win the lawsuit, which was filed in Arkansas, it is an incredible act of faith, of strength, and I just wanted to highlight their work because I know that they put so much on the line to ask for justice. And I know also that they were really, really crushed when the lawsuit was dismissed.
Mhm.
But they're still organizing. Many of them are a member of Venceremos, which is an Arkansas organization that I encourage everyone to. You can volunteer, you can donate your time, you can donate money. They have done such incredible work to support poultry workers and also to make sure they feel like they can share their stories.
Yes, it was. I knew very little. In fact, I knew nothing about this topic before I read your book. So I was totally illiterate on it. So, and I realized you're writing nonfiction. It was so heart breaking, but I don't know why it should surprise me that they lost the lawsuit. I mean, it was just, you just listening to you speak on their behalf in this interview. It's just, it's encouraging to hear that they're not giving up, even though they may be crushed. They're not giving up and they're still working. So congratulations to them. And you want to raise your hands. Keep. I don't know what the expression, keep the faith, whatever, but keep doing it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or in Spanish, it's si se puede. Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can.
Okay. All right. Before I conclude, I want to ask you, is there anything I didn't bring up, or is there anything that didn't ask you that you would like to emphasize about your book?
Well, I mean, I think the thing I've just been really moved by the response to it,
What has been the
including
response? Yeah, go.
filmmakers who have read it. I mean, just the number of people, filmmakers, podcasts, like people are going to Arkansas, people are making films that are incredibly powerful, would given the powers that be never, ever. But now now that my book is out, there's some things you can't, the truth is really powerful. And I think the written word is really powerful. And that, it's interesting how people underestimate it.
Yes, okay. Well, Alice, thank you so much for being here with us. If readers want to contact you or find out more information about you, are you in social media and how could they find you?
So I am only on Instagram, and it's my name, Alice. It has an underscore in the middle because there's other Alice drivers. But
Okay.
so I'm on Instagram. I have an author page, and I also have a web page at alicedriver.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative. I appreciate your enthusiasm about this topic, about your subject, the people that you wrote about. You can really tell by reading your book, you were deeply concerned about them and touched. And that really means a lot when you read an author's book. So thank you for that. It's been a wonderful experience for me reading it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate like anytime I can share my work in Arkansas, I'm really happy to do it.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in reading Life and Death of the American Worker, you can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold. Also, you can find more information at onesignalpublishers.com/books or at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.